And you don't want to throw your because God knows what it'll transcribe.
Okay. So we are set up correctly.
Our recording. I see.
This meeting is being recorded, so I can say okay on this, right? That's on my screen.
Okay. So sorry for the technical things.
Not at all, like working schools.
And
I'm gonna make sure I pronounce your name right, Dr. Lotzi.
Perfect.
So this is me, we are now recording, and this is Steve Place. It's group one of the New Canaan Charter Review Commission meeting on January 14th. It's now 4:32, and we'll call the meeting to order. I think the first thing on the agenda is the review of the minutes from the prior meeting.
We should do the roll call.
Oh, we should do the roll call, okay. And please interject if I'm out of order here.
Please.
Commissioner Palo. Here. Commissioner Jameson.
Yeah.
Commissioner Labrie. Here. And Steve Case is here, and I will be the acting coordinator for this meeting.
And I think we have Miss Carlson on Zoom.
Yes, Ms. Carlson is on Zoom. Is anyone else on Zoom, and would they like to declare themselves? Gianna, do you want to just say something?
I'm happy to say something. Sorry, I don't like to interject in the meeting, but I don't see anyone else online, I don't believe, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now we know we can hear you too, so thank you.
Okay. And I will officially go back on mute.
Okay, great. So the first order of business is to review the prior meeting minutes. And Angela, do you want to take the lead of that discussion?
Sure. Well, this is the point at which other subcommittee members would provide edits, revisions to the minutes.
I had one minor. Oh, Joe. No,
Okay.
I have one minor one.
Yes.
In the second paragraph, we're talking about the Commissioner Case said that the technical needs of the board commission were a key issue to consider, which I agree. And then the next sentence, it said it was written, the more impact the activities have. And I wanted to change that to the broader the impact of the activities.
The broader. Okay.
Yeah, broader rather than more. That was my only, just more breadth.
Sure, no problem.
Anybody else have any thoughts or edits? No, fine. If not, could I get a motion to accept the meeting?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, done. We're thrilled to have Dr. Lotzi here to talk to us about the Board of Ed and the department, his role as the superintendent of schools. And we have some thoughts that there's no way we're going to go through that, and I passed them along about some questions. Yes, that about questions, and this was posted online actually too, in terms of possible questions. But before we get into those, do you have any thoughts that you wanted to put forth about the town charter, the interaction of the charter with the Board of Ed, with the school system, and any other thoughts that you may want to put forth?
Sure. Well, I just would start by saying thank you for the invitation. I remember 10 years ago when the town was embarking on a similar process, I met with a group and we had some conversation around, similar conversations. Mm-hmm. And as superintendent and as working with the school system and the town, I think it is so important to be a part of these discussions. I don't think it happens in every town, and I'm honored to be here with you today. I'm proud and glad that it does happen here with us. As you know, also the Board of Education, we have our own set of bylaws that we follow, which means that the Board of Education language in the charter is relatively sparse, appropriately so, because then our bylaws pick up and manage and guide us in what we're doing. Yeah, there are other impacts, as you mentioned, Steve, and I'd be glad we can go through the questions if that's more helpful, or just glad
I
to.
think the most
Talk
helpful to
generally.
hear your thoughts, and then we can touch on these as needed.
Great, great. Well, on the whole, the charter helps us to determine the terms of service, the elections, the frequency of the elections. And 12 years as superintendent, I found that it works very well. I think a 4-year term is appropriate, because it really takes a couple of years to get up to speed on the intricacies of what we do in education. And I found that over time, when folks are on for a couple of terms, they really are more impactful. They're able to bring a wealth of experience and sort of trial and error, and it also helps to onboard new people. So there are there as many models as you can imagine as far as term limits and durations and elections and all, but I really think we've hit the right balance of that. And having a 9-member board, I believe, is the appropriate number of board members. We run committees, as you're a committee here, as you know, right? And so we have generally 3 committees, and we have 3 board members on each committee, generally as a rule. So that number 9 works very well for us operationally, with the board.
Do you attend all the Board of Ed meetings?
I do.
Okay.
Actually, that's in my job description. That I'm expected to be at every Board of Education meeting. And if I couldn't be for any reason, I would appoint a delegate to be there. But in 12 years, knock on wood, I've been able to make it to everyone. And I tried to attend every committee meeting as well. We schedule those in a way through my secretary, who serves as the also sort of ex officio of the board. So we try to schedule those so that I can attend. And I'll say our board members have been very flexible and great around that too. So it's worked out. There's, of course, we're right in the midst of the budget season, right? And of course, there's language in the charter that governs that process. And I think something we do extraordinarily well here in New Canaan, and again, doesn't happen elsewhere, certainly can't take anything for granted, that each of the different committees, whether it's the Board of Education, the Board of Finance, the Town Council, the Board of Selectmen, they understand their responsibility and their inputs in that process, and they stay, for want of a better term, they stay in their lane, right? So we don't have a Board of Education that looks at the budget and says, how can I reduce and cut this budget? They say, is this the most responsible, efficient, effective budget for our kids? Board of Finance looks at it and says, what's the affordability of the town? Where are we landing? The Town Council looks at it a little differently through their lens, and of course, the Board of Selectmen with the capital requests. And I think that those responsibilities are all complementary, and when it's not clearly spelled out in charters, where towns can get into trouble. We have people sort of on one board or committee, sort of thinking that their responsibility overlaps with the others. So I think that it's both the people in those roles and the expectations that are set. So if there are changes as we're looking at it, I think that I wouldn't want to lose that, because I think that really leads to the best outcome. The other pieces around the charter, certainly the budget timeline is something we're always thinking about. How can we improve this? Right? As you know, we start in January with our Board of Education. At the end of January, we bring it to the Board of Selectmen. In February, we're with the Board of Finance until the beginning of March, and then it's the Town Council that goes, from there. It can be onerous and more of an endurance test than anything else, but it does, again, get us to a good place at the end. As long as
input during that process from all sides, or is there kind of irrational input? It's not
I think we generally do get really thoughtful questions and input, and we're all generally coming at it from the same place, which is to try to be as efficient as possible without negatively impacting the outcomes for children, right? And so I talked to our board about one of the guiding ethics in New Canaan for the Board of Ed is that the quality of the idea on behalf of children is the single most important consideration. And then the others, as far as effort and time and fight, all have to be a part of it, but the most important consideration is that for the Board of Ed. And that's what we've done through the years. That consideration is a guiding ethic, but also the Board of Finance has insight into things that are not mine or our expertise. So then they're able to ask some questions around that. That's always very helpful. So I think generally it's value add. as we go through, of course, the town council's that final stop, right? And that as a legislative body is probably the most political body of all of them, just by nature of its role. And so those questions can sometimes be a little bit different, but we work through, and it's okay, because it's really seeking to understand. I think the way that we break off our capital and our operating works well also. We think that, as you know, the operating budget is our annual, what it takes to operate our schools every year. Zeroes out at the end of the year and we begin again. Capital is a little different. Those are the investments in the assets that we have, the buildings, the buses, the technology, those things.
And do you recommend all of the capital improvements and then the Board of Finance and the town council approves, or?
We do, it's all part of the budget that I bring forward. We have our operating budget and our capital that I bring it forward at the same time. They live in different buckets, right? So the capital, it actually starts with the Board of Selectmen. And that's their entry into the budget for us is into the capital budget, not into the operating budget. Right, we still present it and talk about it, but their influence really is over that capital. So that the town has a portfolio of capital plans, all from the schools and from the town together. As we move through, there's great cooperation. For instance, if we are looking to do some paving at our buildings, which we are, right, in this year's budget over at 2 of our schools, we'll start with that in our budget. But then as the process goes, it'll actually generally move over to the DPW budget, because it just makes sense for Tiger and his team to make some of those decisions, because he can save money by capitalizing on when the pavers are in town and the time of the year and all of that. And he's always been willing to take that under his umbrella, but we put it in initially as an indication of what needs to be done. And then,
is that process codified? In other words, the Board of Selectmen are the primary, the first step in the capital budget.
Mm-hmm.
The superintendent of schools and others are the first step of the operating budget. Is that codified?
But so we develop our own capital budget and then bring it forward to the Board of Selectmen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's okay. I wasn't clear. And as far as the towns who are taking the pavement piece, there's language in the charter that says that where approved by the Board of Ed, the town can be the purchasing agent for the Board of Ed. And that's one of those instances where we ask the town to do that because it saves us money.
Anything that you can think of that would improve the process?
Around the budget? It's challenging, right? We've tried a couple of things through the years. And I've been here long enough to have tried them and sort of reverted back to more what we've generally done. We've tried to hold joint meetings in the past. So we've had the Board of Finance, the town council together for an initial meeting. The challenge is, like we said before, the lenses are different, right? So then sort of what that conversation isn't cohesive in the way that it is now. When I go to the Board of Finance, I'm prepared in a certain way and I know, and we have a great rich conversation. And then when I go to the town council, I prepare slightly differently and we have, again, a great rich conversation, but they're not the same conversation. So trying to save time by putting those groups together, at least in the past, hasn't been helpful that way.
Right. Could I just go back to what you said about everybody has their own lane and they stick to them? Is that because it is well codified, or is it more just a norm that is developed?
I think it may be both.
Okay.
I think that I do think there's language around the role of the Board of Finance in the budget process and what they're looking at, and the role of the town council to some degree, what they look at. But I also know that there are plenty of places where, even though it's written, they don't do it in practice. So for instance, there are boards of ed where financial hawks are elected and they see their role first and foremost in reducing the budget with the Board of Education.
Yeah.
Right. So there's nothing that says they can't do that. And I don't think we could articulate language that would. But for me, and understanding the way our process works, I just don't think that would yield the best result.
So the lanes are adequately codified. Putting to one side the fact that we have these great norms here, because you never know.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So is the sort of architecture of the town charter sufficient in that respect, in your view?
In my view, I believe it is.
Okay.
Because we've had multiple people come on the boards throughout the years, and it has on the whole, really hasn't wavered, those practices. And I think that even the fact that we elect our town council versus appoint our board of finance, all right out of the gate, distinguishes them as different bodies with different functions and different work. So I do think it's pretty clear. Don't claim to be a scholar of the charter. I'm going through it. I did, in preparation for our conversation, take a quick look through and highlight a couple of things. On a smaller note, I do have one suggestion that might be worthwhile, and it's a very small thing. But in the charter, and I'm going to be looking to make a similar change in our bylaws for the Board of Education, because I don't believe it's aligned with statute, and it could cause some confusion down the line. And we just experienced a vacancy on the Board of Ed, so it just comes to mind. It is C7-4.
C7-4.
On the Board of Education.
Yes.
And under vacancies.
Yeah.
And it says, it gives 90 days. It says if the Board of Education fails to fill any vacancy which occurs on the board within 90 days. And our bylaws say the same, but if you look into statute gives a 30-day rule for municipalities to fill a position. And I would just suggest considering maybe we align the charter, I'm going to align the Board of Ed bylaws with that legislation, so that it's just clear. And I know that one of our neighboring districts got in some confusion around this, where the Board of Education had appointed someone, and then the next day the town had appointed someone, and both people were attending meetings for a while. So I just think if we line that up.
So the 30-day requirement is in the general statutes?
It is. It's statute, it's 7-107.
Okay.
And there's language for a Board of Ed as well, 10-219, that doesn't give the number of days explicitly. But there's an argument to be made that Board of Ed is that a municipal body, and it's in the public interest to fill a position as promptly as possible. And I think 30 days, well, I know it's being in the statute the way that it is, I think that there could be a challenge there. So just to avoid it outright.
What have you done in the past when there's been vacancy?
We've used the 30 days. Yeah.
Well, in practice, you're arguing to the general statutes
We have them, yeah.
as opposed to the charter.
The charter.
So that your bylaws also have that.
They do. For now, but I'm going to ask to change that just to line it up.
Which would you prefer? Because I'm just reacting. 30 days is quick.
It is.
And 90 days would allow kind of public discussion of people coming in. And I could go either way. Of course, you need the people and the resources.
Right.
Got it.
But
Which would you prefer?
I originally had advocated years ago for the 90 days, but given the unexpected nature of our recent vacancy that we filled, and I had several conversations with our attorneys who shared that they were advising that we work within the 30. Because if we went beyond that, and again, our norms are this wouldn't happen here, right?
Yeah.
Between Dion and I and everything else, we work together.
It was all hands on deck.
Right,
Yeah.
but it could happen that if you worked within the 90-day, there could be a challenge that said the statute overrides your local ordinance and your bylaws, and you could lose that. Actually Shipman said, we think you would lose that because of the public interest that's involved. And the public interest is to have a full board wherever possible.
So in other words, the statute doesn't provide any discretion for either the town or the town Board of Ed to have a different number.
That was Shipman's interpretation, was that since it's 30 there, the Board of Ed language says that unless otherwise noted.
And this is your attorney.
It is.
It's attorney to the board, to the school system,
Correct.
not
To the town.
Yeah.
You know what, guys, I will tell you, it was confusing to me as well because people were asking me this last time around and I was reading our charter and having been on the Board of Ed, I knew that it was 90 days. And then all of a sudden our legislators are telling me it's 30 and I'm like, what are you talking? So
the general statutes, trump the charter.
yes, but I didn't realize that there was absolutely, Chris. The problem was that our charter and the Board of Ed rules or bylaws are inconsistent. And so I agree with Dr. Lutzy, just for,
That's a good catch, a good point.
Yeah. And what it means, that 30 days simply says, if the Board of Ed doesn't fill its position within 30 days, then the first selectman can fill that position, right? So there's not, if we're working together and we're in the midst of a process and we're interviewing and it's going to take a little longer, then, with a conversation with first selectman, as long as the process is clean and as it would be, then that's fine, right? It just ensures that a board or otherwise doesn't ignore that piece and just let it ride.
This is more a question beyond even the charter review committee, because because to me, that's gonna mean the town council has to fix that problem, correct? I mean, or we have to fix it one way or the other.
Well, we can change the language of the charter to
Right.
30 days.
To 30, or they can change to 9.
No, you have to amend the state constitution.
Oh, it's the state.
Yeah, the general statutes of the state constitution.
I am so sorry, so sorry.
No, again, was it
No,
clear?
you're not going to amend the state constitution.
No,
No,
I'm
no.
not going to.
That's not a battle worth fighting on that. No. But
But it's
it's,
certainly worth cleaning things up, so
That's
thank you
it.
for bringing
Yeah,
it
it's
to our
a clean
attention.
up. And then you'll review a bit too, so that all the documents.
Exactly. in this way, the states, the town's charter and the Board of Ed bylaws will all be lined up on 30 days.
Got it.
Now, when does the 30 days start?
The day that the resignation is turned into the town clerk in writing. So it must be submitted in writing to be official. So it can't be somebody saying it at a meeting.
Right, that's
So, yes, it has to be received by the town clerk, so generally it's sent and acknowledged, and then it's.
So in the most recent example, somebody quit at the meeting, but that wasn't effective until that person submitted the resignation.
Exactly, about a week later, the email was sent to Claudia, who then acknowledged receipt, and it was that was day one.
Any other kind of thoughtful suggestions like this?
That's the technical piece that I saw. We'll get back to you this, but they were helpful, right?
No, you've got a copy of you.
Oh, I just pulled it up.
Okay.
As far as elected boards, appointed boards, all of that, I think the system that we're operating in, from my perspective at least, having worked with multiple folks in different roles, it seems to work very well because of the expertise required on some of the boards. Again, Board of Finance is a great example.
And the Board of Ed is elected.
Correct.
And have you found any issues with the fact that there is an election process for the Board of Ed in your interaction with the board at large?
I'm generally very happy when the elections are over. But on the whole, no, I think that's the right process. As it's a representative body for the community that comes together and helps to guide what I consider to be the most important asset we have, right? So I think it's the right process.
One of the issues that we're exploring with a lot of the boards, the commissions, is the idea of term limits. And you mentioned that very beginning.
Right.
That you feel that, well, I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Yeah.
Maybe if you could speak to that issue.
I'd be happy to, because I'm in general not in favor of term limits, certainly not for Board of Education. There are some towns that have them. And what it really, in my experience, results in just knowledge drain from the board. This is tough work, and it's not easy to find people willing to put in the work. When we do, we want to hold on to them as long as they're willing to keep serving. So a great example is Penny Ration, who just left the board. She's been on 18 years. There's a void there, right? Now folks luckily have different amounts of experience that are filling it and being able to step in, but the contributions are great. So I generally am not in favor of term limits. We do have some on the Board of Ed as far as our chair. The chairman of the Board of Ed has a 2-year term limit. And that we waived that bylaw when Deanna was chair. We waived the bylaw because we didn't want her to leave. But generally that I think is helpful. So within the boards, there can be some But it's just for that chair position, it's not for Board of Education.
That person's still on for years.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
Yep, and they can go from chair to vice chair, back to chair, there's other things we can do. But that again, that works well for our Board of Education. But I wouldn't want it I wouldn't want it in a charter or elsewhere, because that may shift, that may change. And the Board of Ed does waive that bylaw from time to time when it makes sense and is in the best interest of the board to do that. So I think, yeah, generally what we have seems to be working quite well.
Great.
So, is there a general length of time that members of the Board of Ed serve? I mean, Penny, great example, but a bit of an exception. Is there an
In my
average or a
experience-
median?
How long was the on? Diana, how long were you on,
Not long enough.
I did 2 terms.
And that's,
Yeah,
that's,
Katrina? How long, Katrina?
2 terms, there was COVID in there and it was a little tricky, she came back to finish out someone else's term at the end.
Yeah, so she was 10 years.
But it
I
was.
think it was more like 7, wasn't it? I think it was 4 and then
Oh,
and came
so it
back.
was 4 and then the.
a stub period.
Yeah,
But still, no.
2 terms is generally,
yeah.
because that's 8 years, right? So you figure as they're going, we've had some folks 1 term for various reasons. But yeah, generally 8 years, 2 terms, which is a good run.
Yeah. When you look at our peer communities around the area. When you review your relationship with the Board of Ed here with their relationships with their own boards. What are the pros and cons of what you see here versus what is outside in kind of our peers right around here?
Sure. There are a variety of different models for terms and elections things. Some are 3 years. I've had there's a couple of districts not too far from here that have 2-year terms, where every seat is up every 2 years. There in that situation, it's very difficult to establish relationships. And I even think 3 years is too short, to be fair. I think it really takes time to get into the rhythm of a school year, to understand the budget and the curriculum and the design and the work that we do. So for me, as superintendent, one of the things I keep in mind is the Board of Education is another function of the district. Just like we work on our different departments and our human resources, and those where the Board of Ed is similar, and they need its professional learning and growth, and there's readings, there's frequent communications weekly and articles and other things that go back and forth. So developing that expertise on the board level trickles across the entire system.
Right.
So I think 4 is the maximum. I don't think it would be advisable to consider going longer than that. We wouldn't have anyone running for the board.
How do you split it? Do you do 5 1 year, 4 the next?
Yep, with the odd years, I think that's right. So it's, yep.
And 9 is the right number in your mind? I mean, the over under, I mean, it's a magical number.
It is. 9 works well. I've seen 5, 7, and 9. There's some in regionals that have 12 plus, and I think that's too many. 9 is good for conversation. We had a budget workshop on Friday, and 9 were on the table with our cabinet members with them. And we had 3 hours of engaged discussion of a variety of different things. And I think if you went much smaller, you would lose some of that richness, but if you went much larger, you would people wouldn't have any airtime. So I think 9 is the right number.
And I'm learning, what is a cabinet member?
Sorry, so the cabinet are the district administrators, so it's the superintendent, deputy superintendent, assistant superintendent, directors.
Other questions from my colleagues?
I have a question to rule something out, rather than suggest something we put in.
Sure.
In our last meeting, I talked to the team about the fact that we are looking 10 years into the future here to the start. Is there anything we should consider concerning artificial intelligence? If the answer is no, that's fine, but I'm just curious, I'm asking to see if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's a great question to ask, because I was in a meeting this morning in Hartford. We probably spent 90 minutes of the meeting talking about artificial intelligence and its impact on curriculum, instruction, assessment, on operations, on the work and what we're doing. And are we preparing kids for the future, you know, are we preparing them to think and all of those things? So it's absolutely front of mind for all of us, certainly in schools. On the charter side, you know, as far as sort of those governing rules and governing, I'm not sure what the entry point would be for something like that. As I think through in my bylaws, for the Board of Ed bylaws, there's the superintendent's job description and things. So you know, part of that responsibility I've taken on, although it may not be articulate, is staying up to date on the perceived and potential impacts of AI, of disruptive technologies, and you know, and I don't mean that in a negative way, just we can really fundamentally change what we do. It does provide, it's a great tool for governance in a variety of ways, right? So for instance, I've uploaded our policy manual into AI, into a chatbot. And then I have the legislative updates from our attorney Shipman, have AI cross-reference that, create a list of what needs to be updated in the new year. You know, and create a draft for me of each of the policies, and then I go through them and present them. But it's incredibly helpful that way. What does that, again, what does it mean for the charter? I think it's really about our responsibility just to stay up to date on it, understanding its potential impact and doing whatever we can if we see negative impacts to, you know, to mitigate those as best we can. More of a job description probably than put traffic.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a great question.
I have a question that this is just coming as a citizen of town, and this may be a stupid question. And it comes around that, like, my three kids went through New Canaan High School and they're all doing great now, and I'm very proud. But there were pushes for, you know, give money for this scholarship fund or give money for this event. What's the governance around donations as it applies to the school systems? And what are the right checks? What are the checks and balances? And should that be part of the charter? And I know for the town, there's scholarship funds and whatnot. What the governance surrounding the donations?
Sure. Yeah, there's a couple of different things that you just mentioned. So there's the New Canaan Scholarship Fund, right? New Canaan Scholarship Association, which runs independently of the school. It's its own 501c3. They accept donations, but it's a partner with the school, helps us, and that's for students, for children when they graduate high school, and it's a needs-based scholarship for kids as they go. And they raise money. They used to do scholarship Sundays, knocking door to door when I started. Now you buy a ball, they go up in a helicopter and drop them all at once, and if you get the ball, they'll cup you with a car, right? So yeah, it's evolved over time. It's it's really a wonderful organization. As a matter of fact, we had a couple of folks who wrote the foundation into their estate planning, and recently passed away, significant donations into there. So but that does run separately. It is audited separately and independently. That the results of those audits do come to us for review, but it is because the executive director is ex officio the high school principal is the way it's set up, and then there's an external board as well that meets periodically throughout the year. So that functions independently in that way, but they are audited annually. Mary Cody actually used to do the audit, who's on the audit committee, and works that way. The donations are a little bit different. So we do receive $500,000-$600,000, give or take, annually in donations, depending upon projects and what's happening. And it's about $200,000, give or take, annually from the All Sports Booster Club, a part of that $600,000. Those are governed by Board of Education policy. So if it's a donation under $1,000, over $5,000, goes to the Board of Education for approval. And there's a presentation or a discussion, but that's formally voted on and approved. We have a donation fund that then the fund come into the donation fund, and anything that's expended is tracked, recorded, saved, totaled, reported out at the end of the year when we have our audit with the state. It is a part of our per pupil expenditure, right? And there's a trail in every penny that goes out, just like we do with our budget and everything else. It's audited annually as well. the planetarium is a good example of that.
Yeah.
So we had a group that was raising money for the planetarium. Those funds went into the community foundation. Then when we were ready to expend them, they would move into our donation fund. And then they'd be expended through that way. But the money it doesn't go directly to a vendor, it comes to us. So we can receive it and then have the accounting for it.
And it's subtracted and accounted for. That was my key concern.
Yep.
In asking the question is just the audit trail, so to speak.
Yeah, it's all there, it's audited annually,
Right?
it's reported to the Board of Ed monthly, so they have eyes on it as well. And it's governed by policy.
And the same is true of the scholarship fund?
Scholarship fund isn't reported to the Board of Ed, but yes, it is audited annually, doesn't come into us, goes
So
through.
the scholarship fund boards makes its awards independently of the.
It does. It does. It has its own board governance. It has its own set of bylaws.
Right.
And it uses our data, and our teachers are around the table, a couple of them, because they know the kids and the needs, but ultimately it's that body that gives
It's a 501c3 body.
correct.
Of people that are, I don't know them, but people in the community that determine where that goes.
That's right. And again, it's entirely needs based.
Other questions? I see that Andrew Brooks has joined the meeting. I should have announced that when he came. So Andrew and Deanna, any thoughts or questions for Dr. Lutzi? Hearing none. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Right. Yeah.
Very
Did you have a question, Deanna?
I was just gonna say I don't have any questions. Nice to see you, Dr. Lutzi.
Nice to see you, Andrew. Thank you.
Nothing for me.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I wish you good luck. Yeah, this is a very important document, and governance is some of the most important work we do. So it really often, if we get this right, everything else can go correctly.
And I will say, if you think of anything like this.
I certainly will. And same, if there's any question I can be helpful with, never hesitate. You know how to find me. Yeah. Pleasure to meet you.
Okay, we have on our agenda public comments. The,
And we do, don't we? Yes.
I don't know what that refers to.
Well, ask anybody who's on Zoom.
Yeah. There you go. No comments.
So,
The next, thank you so much, and thank you for coming here. I mean, it's the technology, so much better to see.
Yes.
Thank you. So the next topic on our agenda is a continuation of the discussion that we started at our last group one meeting on the idea of appointed versus elected boards and commissions. And I think, Angela, you're going to run with this and you should be able to share.
well, I can put this on the screen. I thought people might want to see our faces as we talked, and then I could put the amended draft up for everybody to see, but whatever everybody wants to do.
Oh,
One, two, these are.
yes, these are, yes, we had a couple of us,
Yeah.
even with
So
our.
this is, okay, very good, and I've got Joe somewhere.
Yes.
Yeah, so would you like me to would it be helpful to put it up on the screen now, or?
Well, you know what, this was
Posted,
posted,
I can't see.
yeah,
That's true, so I would suggest we go paragraph by paragraph, and it may be that, you have different ideas, so we have to decide how it should be changed. I will type it in, and then if we have time at the end, I can put it up on the screen, everybody can have a look. or
Yes.
Have a look after the meeting, how about that?
let's do that.
One caveat, may I distribute this?
Yes, you should.
Okay.
And just like, for those online,
Right.
the first draft of this was posted to the materials for this meeting
Yeah.
in advance. So you can go into the town website to find this. So if you wanna read along with paragraph by paragraph. You
So-
can go online to do that,
Right, but this is our definition, not theirs.
yes.
I have a question before we go paragraph
Yeah.
by paragraph. I raised it to you in an email, and I'll restate it here. If you look at the charge that we were given of elected persons appointed boards and commissions, it's under the banner twice of themes as opposed to issues. And when we met a week ago, I was very pleased. I thought that the work you provided was very good, and that the work I provided seemed to match that. And it was all in what I would call a general, non-specific to Canaan discussion. And then in the materials I submitted, they were non-specific in the Canaan. But the document that we're going to review now, and in fact, probably most of the edits that we'll discuss, are around, I think, a number of points that are specific to New Canaan. And so I'm asking the question, have we gone beyond the obligation of actually making this specific as opposed to general? Because I think most of the areas of edit are going to relate to the specifics, where in the general sense, I thought we were quite aligned and we're good. So are we overly complicating this? My question.
Well, we weren't given much guidance.
No.
You know, somebody made a suggestion that there should be theme-based discussion as well as discussion of specific government bodies, and we weren't given any guidance beyond that. It seems to me that the most help we can provide are some general points, things for everyone who's on the CRC to consider when they are decided whether a specific body like Board of Finance should be appointed or elected. But you know, this isn't an academic discussion. It is actually a discussion to help everybody clarify their thinking in relation to the town charter of New Canaan. Anyway, that's how I see it.
And I'll kind of pile on to that point.
Yeah.
I think the audience for this document is our commissioners in group 2 and 3.
Yeah.
And if that's the audience, I think even though like some of my edits would even make it broader than New England, but I do think having it relevant to our commission and New Canaan in specifics is appropriate.
Okay.
And before we start, I tried to draft this so that it is neutral in tone. It's not taking a perspective on whether a specific board or commission
Right.
should be elected or appointed. Just things to think about.
That was the point that I raised the issue on, was that it seemed to have taken on a direction. So we'll go through it.
Yeah, well, let's go through. So the sort of what I call the preamble. First paragraph, anybody got things that they'd like change there?
Is the first paragraph the one that starts with citizens participation?
Yes.
Yes.
In my comments to you about several lines down where it says appointment makes members accountable to the electorate, I suggested adding the word indirectly. This was elections make members directly accountable to the electorate. Appointments make members indirectly accountable to the electorate. And I think that's the major point of distinction between the two types of approaches. So I would ask the word indirectly be put from account.
Thoughts?
Well, but that only considers the electorate as opposed to who they are actually accountable to. So there is accountability in both cases.
Well, if you want to add that and say, yes, they're indirectly to the accountable, if you want to make them directly accountable to the first selectman, I'd be happy to add that in. And that,
Well, you could be very specific and say, the election makes members directly accountable to the board.
To the electorate.
To the
to
electorate.
the electorate, that's true. An appointment makes them indirectly accountable to the electorate, that's true. If you then want to add, but they're also directly accountable to the first selectman, that would be also true. I wouldn't have a problem with adding that.
I'm happy either way.
But it actually says accountable to the electorate via the elected officials who appoint them.
Well,
So
to me, that is an important
Yeah.
Yes.
point, because
Yes.
what we have is representative rather than direct democracy
Right.
here in
That's the point.
New Canaan.
I'm not sure what that means.
Representative democracy means that you vote for individuals who are going to represent the community in making decisions regarding the town.
Right, that's the point of discussion, whether it should be appointed or elected. I agree.
So I do see a difference between representative and direct democracy. I mean, it's actually spelling out that what we have when we have appointments is representative democracy, because it says accountable to the electorate via, that's a very important word.
Where's, right, by
Via the elected, yeah. Or
Right.
he could say through, I mean, that might be a more elegant way of saying it.
well, my
Via.
request is that the word, the key distinction is one is direct and the other is something other than direct. So I've used indirect.
Well, but it is accountable through the elected officials.
I agree. I think the term representative could go in.
You know what you could do, you could change the word this is written, and you could write, let's see, elected members, are directly accountable to the electorate. Appointed members are,
Directly accountable to the officials who appoint them.
yeah, are accountable, well, you can say this, elected officials are accountable to the electorate. You forget directly, you don't have to, that's a redundancy, so elected officials are accountable directly to the electorate.
Excuse me,
And the next point would be appointed officials are accountable to the electorate via the officials who appoint them.
well, the word directly, I will tell you that I've subsequently have had a conversation with Kathleen, and this word really needs to be in front of accountable based on our last meeting, where if we take out the directly, I think it created some other issues, so,
Which are what?
excuse me,
What's the other issue?
which were that it implied that people weren't accountable, so Kathleen wanted directly put in, which I think is key. I think the main distinction between the 2 points of elected versus appointed is that one is direct and one is not direct. It's something other than direct. It's direct by the people who appoint them. So you vote for the first selectman and then something else happens and you get the appointed person. That's the distinction. It's the main distinction of the debate between the 2 sides. One has recourse and recall, and the other doesn't, from the electorate point of view.
Well, how about this, taking on the wording that Chris has suggested, elected officials are directly accountable to the electorate, semicolon. Appointed officials are accountable via the elected officials who appoint them.
That's what you had originally.
Yeah, and that's what I had originally.
Right,
Do we need to alter it then?
right. And my suggestion was they're indirectly accountable to the electorate via the because there's an intermediary.
Well, it makes it clear, it's kind of redundant to say it twice, isn't it?
Yeah,
I'm not sure what you're getting. I only asked that one word be added indirectly.
yeah, but we don't need that because the,
Why I think we do.
well, what you just read, Angela, seems perfectly fine, so you read it again, please.
Okay, so, here we go. Elected officials are directly accountable to the electorate. Semicolon. Appointed officials are accountable via the elected officials who appoint them.
I think that's the original text that we had.
Pretty much.
Pretty much.
Remember?
If it helps at all, I can tell you, I feel very accountable to appointed officials. I get lots of feedback from, as Angela knows, the parties. And I know some of my predecessors, when there were appointments that were not, people were not happy about, or people who were not renewed, there's a lot of accountability and it comes up in the next election.
The tone of the word indirect suggests to me
that they're less accountable. And I don't think that's true, so I would veer to the group with respect to the language of just they are accountable via the elected officials.
And then this sort of leaves it open to every individual to make up their own mind.
Right.
And some people will say it's not good enough that appointed officials are accountable by the elected officials who appoint them, whereas others think that this is a very reasonable way to proceed because it's representative democracy.
Let's move on.
Okay.
So should we just take that then? Elected officials are directly accountable to the electorate. Semicolon, appointed officials are accountable by the elected officials who appoint them.
Right,
Okay.
okay, we're good.
Let's move on.
Okay, so.
Yeah, and I go back to the first sentence, and I just think
Sure.
citizen participation is a cornerstone of democracy, period. I mean, I just don't think it's New England, and I don't think it's local governments, and I just,
Okay, well, I tell you where this came from. I'm a big fan of New England democracy
Yeah.
because I come from a country that is much more centralized
right,
and where you don't have the tradition of town meetings, representative town meetings, citizens being involved.
if you wanna
in
amplify
kinds
New
of-
England, that's fine, I just.
Okay, I think,
Well, you don't have it in California, other places, right? But you have all these strange Western laws that where you have recall and all this kind of stuff.
I mean, I lived in California for a while, and I remember proposition.
Propositions, right, I mean, it's
Yeah,
by the time the democracy evolved as it went west.
I'm fine if you wanna keep it that way, it's just a, it's just a fundamental.
I can go either way. Second question,
Yes.
that we resolved, Steve.
Yeah,
So what do we decide to do with the cities?
we're staying with New England democracy. Or New England local.
Well, there's a big difference between New England democracy and New England local government with municipality as the primary. I see what you're getting at. You're saying that you like. You're describing the way it works.
And I'm just saying it's.
And we're looking at it,
Macro.
you're looking at it very, very macro.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great tradition,
Yeah,
It is a great thing.
it's,
okay, I take back my suggested edit.
okay, you'll let me be sentimental.
Yes.
A little further down in the paragraph, if you look at the sheet, there's a sentence that starts, some are elected, but many are appointed. And I thought we have some quantitative data on that, which I provided in our first meeting. And in fact, the data that you provided actually goes further than the numbers I provided because you added mostly more appointed boards, but nothing, they weren't the more elected commissions. So I just thought we could put in the data that we have less than 25% and over 75%.
This is paragraph 3.
Yeah, paragraph,
So
it's
it's-
actually paragraph 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's the last sentence of paragraph 4. Where, oh, sorry,
It's
yeah,
paragraph 3.
paragraph 3, I'm sorry, I'm
In some
sorry.
cases, Board of Finance, no council must approve the appointments. Okay, that's the sentence part of that.
Right.
Uh,
And we have two pieces of data which I provided and have been.
A reason I didn't put numbers in, for 2 reasons. One, it's a little bit squishy, exactly how many government bodies we're looking at here, because if you look at the list I put together, it includes the Board of Finance 3 times because it's 3 different bodies. It has RPAC in there, which is a subcommittee. And it has the sustainability team, which is very questionable. So that was one consideration. The other consideration is that I don't think that the numbers are what's important here. And it is each individual body that needs to be considered, whether it should be elected or appointed. And, I might give more weight to thinking about this in relation to the Board of Finance, say, than I would the Historic District Commission. Just to take a couple of examples. So
To your first point on the squishy,
Yeah,
The data that I provided was very detailed, there was no double counting, and so anything that you provided would be in addition to what I provided, meaning this is the floor, the split of 75-25. And I think it's an important point to make to show the fact that we have over 75% of the people in government that are appointed and under 25 that are elected. So the squishy part goes away. I've been generous here. If I had added them up, the number would be more like 20 or maybe 18% to about 80 or 82%. But I just figured we had this easy number, so it was an easy way to show that perspective. So there's nothing squishy about the numbers. I have the chart here if you'd like to see.
It doesn't bother me to put those numbers in.
The numbers, I think, are a bit tendentious because, they're quantitative and not qualitative, so you don't, it doesn't ask the next question, which is, well, which is better? And
We don't say
those are
which is better, we just say what it is.
well, but by putting the numbers in, it skews the conversation.
Exactly my point, why I thought we should stay away from this, because one of the things we're gonna have to consider is if we can't reach agreement on this, and I'm hopeful that we can. But this can be the work of some people in the group, but it may not be the work of the whole group. I really felt that what we were doing with some of this language, and it gets even more pronounced as we go further down, is trying the case here by putting in language which in some ways is directional, in some ways is when I presented my chart on pros and cons, I was very careful to show 4 pros and 4 cons for each. When this came through, I believe in one case it's 3 for elected and 7 for appointed. I mean, there's clearly a theme coming through here, which my edits are intended to balance. And I'm hopeful that we can balance in a unified document, because most of what I felt was important was additions, not subtractions to what was taken out. However, if we can, then, I reserve the right to just submit, I'll let you just submit your document the way it is, and I'll submit a separate document and, but these points that go down.
The same thing.
I don't want to go down.
What?
They're the same thing opinion.
You can call it that, and why not?
No, I mean, I think we try to hash it out, and if we can't hash it out, because
What is lost by adding the quantitative? That's what does it take away? It's a factual statement.
Because it does exactly what you're saying about the.
Yes, it's unfriendly to the appointed side, I agree. It's
But
unfriendly.
then, if that's the case, we don't need to balance the pros and cons either.
Well, I did, but we don't have to. No, that's right, you don't have to. As a matter of fact, if you
Right,
want,
because what's good in one
Yes.
direction is good in the other.
I agree. You don't get any resistance from it. I thought we should have a level playing field without the particulars, but if we go this way, what my comments were intended to do was to level it, because it wasn't level. But if you want to add more, I wouldn't oppose that. I think that's consistent with my position. But clearly, this document takes on a tonality that goes in a particular direction. And again, adding in facts shouldn't be an issue. I mean,
well, for me, at the end of the day, deciding whether a board should be elected or appointed isn't going to come down to, oh, we have 25%, it ought to be closer to 50%. It's going to be thinking about
Right.
the specific nature.
then you shouldn't be concerned about the data. It shouldn't be an issue.
Well, okay, but how solid is this data?
Right here, right here.
I know, you put all the charts together, but how solid is that?
Absolutely so.
But based on who?
Based on counting in the, just look at it,
Yeah, but what's the source?
the charter. Put it from the charter,
Oh, you just
direct from
provide.
the chart.
But you have functions here. You don't have all the boards and commissions.
Right, exactly.
in addition, and I might have left some off for all I
Right,
know,
and
from my little table.
Yes, yes, and therefore, when you add those boards in, they're all appointed, so the numbers tip even more. I'm giving you the most generous number you're going to get, is what I'm saying.
Sorry, do you want
By
to-
adding the utilities commission, it raises the appointed number. By adding the parking commission, it raises the appointed number. I use my number, which is the
But-
most generous.
But it's somewhat irrelevant.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is,
No, it's
because it's the how the town chooses to organize itself.
Right.
And this has worked.
I didn't say it hasn't worked. I
So,
just said it's a fact. And obviously, you're concerned that showing this number or repeating it would somehow imply something negative to appoint it. I mean, if it wasn't that important, then we just put it in, people would glance by.
I'm fine with the number, just because it is a fact that most of. That I've been surprised learning is most of the towns' positions on commissions and boards are appointed.
Yeah, actually, if you look at the neighbouring towns and you include all the boards and commissions that they have set up, there are many more than's in the table that I included.
Right.
I only included the ones that was very similar or the same
I
as
understand.
her. And if you look at that, they're skewed very heavily towards appointment. I mean, what about this?
I don't dispute that.
What about this as
Yeah.
a suggestion? Some are elected, but many more are appointed.
I don't see what the issue is with the data.
because the data is incomplete.
What is incomplete?
We haven't, it's not.
The point of the part that the appointed that she raised, two problems with it. One, they're outside the charter, they're not in the charter. And second, to the degree that we include them, the 75 will go up to 85. In other words, I'm giving you,
But I think Angela's point, if I could just, is that we don't have great data on other towns in comparison. And getting that data could be quite difficult to do apples to apples.
Yes,
But that's
and
not
I think we'll take up a lot
No,
of
that's not-
time that should be spent on thinking about how the specific boards and commissions in the town of New Canaan.
No. You're very specific here, you talk about New Canaan has some some boards and commissions. This is referring to New Canaan, not to other towns, this is your text.
All right, so maybe this is what, since you insist that this is out of these are only the boards and commissions that are named in the charter?
There might be some other ones that.
Okay, because what I would be willing to say is, if he wants to include numbers, is based on the existing chart. X number are elected and X number are appointed, based on the existing chart.
Right.
And that's the only statistic that we look at, because it's the only one that we can verify.
Right.
As being, and whatever.
Let me just look at this list real quick, but I.
And then
You'll have to review those guys.
That's the problem.
I think they're all in the charter.
I think Fiona would like to make a point.
Sorry,
Yes.
you're gonna have to go back because many of these are some of these are in the ordinances and not in the charter, so you may have to review that distinction.
Thank you for that, and I would also like to add that actually in Joe's list, there are a lot of non-boards and commissions, there are functions. There are people who are appointed, like the town attorney, the town engineer, public works, that's part of.
Can we go back to Chris's point? Could we just factually have a sentence saying in New Canaan's charter,
Yeah,
X are appointed, Y are.
yeah,
In the current chart,
yeah,
In the current charter, and that makes your point.
I'll settle for Angela's point where she said some are elected and many more.
Okay. I mean,
okay, if we stick to descriptive words, I think we're.
okay. Right,
Many more are appointed.
Yeah.
Many
more, that's fine, but that's true.
Then a little further down, there's a sentence that starts, however. All these towns have created many boards, commissions whose members are appointed. And what I go in from your chart was to add 6 towns elect their boards of finance and all 6 towns elect their board of finance. And all 6 towns elect their planning and zoning commissions.
And
That's what your chart shows.
And actually, in my edits, I had just struck that whole area. The New Canaan holds elections for memberships on fewer boards, commissions than most other towns. If this is your point, Joe. Then from that point on, why do we need to get into the area of analytics of land use? And however, all these towns have created boards. I mean, I just don't know that that's the role of us in the theme to get into that. So that the rest of the New Canaan has traditionally forces on path, blah, blah, blah. I found that more interpretive.
Okay.
What are you commenting on? I'm not sure.
First of all, New Canaan doesn't elect anybody to any board or commission except for the Board of Ed.
Board of Ed, Board of Selectmen.
Oh, yeah, because they're
Board.
boards.
The zoning board of appeals.
So,
The
the
assessment board of appeals.
Assessment Board of Appeals.
Right.
So
Those are the three elected boards. That's why when you look at the data quantitatively, there is no more data on elected boards or elected committees. All the data builds up to the number of appointments. And I was being generous by not building it up beyond 75, but if you actually tally the number, will go significantly.
So Steve, you would like to strike from
specifically
Yeah.
in the area of land use all the way down the rest
From
of that.
Fairfield County, right?
yeah,
Fairfield County, period.
Right.
Then however, all these towns have created boards whose members are appointed. I just don't know that we need to.
New Canaan holds election for membership of fewer boards, commissions than most other towns. Well, you see, there are no commissions that are elected either, right? Do other towns elect commissions?
they do.
Not-
Well, P and Z isn't a commission
Yeah.
usually, but the point I was trying
But
to.
if, let's say in the wisdom of the charter commission, they decide to have the P and Z elected, there would no longer be a commission.
Not
I'm sure there'd be a
necessarily.
board or an agency like that.
Well, this fits into the definitions.
I
You
think-
get to the definition.
I think that the other towns like Westport and Darien, they don't say the planning and zoning board, they say planning and zoning commission, but I'm not sure
Well,
about
that's
it.
essentially-
But the point I was trying to make, and I didn't
It's correct.
phrase it very, very well, is that in addition to what you see in the appendix, there are many more boards and commissions that the other towns in Fairfield County have created, which are appointed.
I just,
What do you want to strike, Steve?
again, you could,
Just tell me where it starts.
well, you could look at the edits from me. There's a page, the handout, right here.
Right.
And I have, it's the paragraph down, just other towns in Fairfield County. I just hate to be fact checked on some of these issues unless. So I would just strike the rest of that, not, but it's a strong statement saying most other towns in Fairfield County. I do think that's true. Buchanan holds election for fewer boards and commissions than most other towns in Fairfield County. I think that's true.
Well, I did say than some other towns. I didn't say all towns in Fairfield County, some other.
So I had said most rather than some, but okay, some others is fine.
Yeah.
But then I just feel like we're getting interpretive and beyond the point of this thematic discussion. Getting beyond that.
Okay, I mean, I think it's relevant that New Canaan has gone its own way.
Yeah.
For example, we don't have a representative town meeting.
Yeah.
But if you
That's-
guys want that taken out, I
You do.
I think Darien does,
They-
Greenwich
they-
does.
Yep, they do. Wilton doesn't have anything but the Board of Selectmen, I believe. But all those other towns. So does everybody want the sentences that just one sentence left in that paragraph, right?
Yes,
So you're
Okay.
taking out specifically up to town meeting, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Fine.
Okay.
okay, fine.
Okay.
Sorry to interject, Angela. I just know Wilton does have an elected board of finance. So I have a friend who serves on it. So I just wanted to share that detail.
Thank you.
Thank
No
you.
problem.
Okay.
Okay, next sentence, next paragraph. Given the diverse functions
I have no edits.
I suggested that you just, it's more wordsmithing, but. Taking a one fits all approach, saying making like a decision. But it supports nothing,
I'm happy with that. Maybe be a blanket decision.
rather than.
And this is where I think, I absolutely agree, everything we've closed is saying everybody needs to look at the specific circumstances of each committee and make a decision.
We agree on that point.
Okay, so elected boards and commission pros. Let's get stuck into these.
I have a comment on point 4. If there's no comments on motion 3, you can go.
Let's say 1, 2, 3.
And then I had struck the same.
You had some things on 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, do you want me to go through that?
No, this is your time.
Okay. Election, this gets more to what we were talking about earlier, the direct democracy or direct voter input. I mean, I know that direct democracy is probably, it's much broader, direct voter input.
I like that bit.
Let's see what we got for you. I'm sorry, I'm being a bit slow here.
Yeah, so yours would read election provide for direct voter input.
Yes, period. Some argue election may enhance direct accountability as electors decide the membership of specific boards and commissions and whether to re-elect their members.
Well, some argue now, who is that?
It's a pro.
Well, it isn't really, because
Who
it
is-
kind of
who
suggests
is
there are
that?
some who don't, yeah.
Okay.
Will you just repeat the sentence again?
Election provides for direct voter input, which is a pro.
Right.
Okay. The argument, maybe some argue is weak.
Well,
Election means, then just forget about some argue, just
Yeah.
start an election.
yeah, you see, that some argue, Jim was gonna say, well, who's your expert?
Yeah, so election may enhance direct accountability as electors decide the membership of specific boards and commissions, and whether to re-elect their members.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, so just strike off of my, do you see?
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna type it in, so just give me a minute, direct,
I think I agree. I'd like to just hear it from beginning to end.
So election provides for direct voter input, period.
Agree.
Election may enhance direct accountability as electors decide the membership of specific boards and commissions and whether to re-elect their members.
I'm fine with that.
That sounds okay.
Okay.
okay, let me just make sure I've got this correct then, okay, election provides for direct voter input, period. Election may enhance direct accountability as electors decide the membership of specific boards, commissions, and whether to re-elect their members. Did I take that down correctly?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Okay, but that's not what Steve wrote.
Yes, it is.
You wrote, elections may enhance the board or commission's awareness.
That's point 3.
1, 2.
2,
Oh, 2. Election may enhance the board's awareness and responsibility. See, I actually think this is a point of discussion and I can be shot down. But I think it's far easier for a canary in the coal mine to come out on an issue with an election than with an appointed board. And I think minority points of view are better heard. That's what I'm trying to say. So election may enhance the board or commission's awareness and responsiveness to minority points of view.
Well, to residents, which would include minority points of view. And I think the idea of
To residents' point of view, fine, rather than the minority, which has other common residents.
not just the minority, but
Yeah,
the idea of responsiveness was a major theme in the literature that I looked at on the election stuff. You were represented and you complained, you fully represented the US for help.
oh, but believe me, the residents really make it plain to members of appointed commissions where they are unhappy. with the decisions you have
To
done.
the commissioners, but in an election, it's in the public domain. The running for election and those issues.
But the
A
issue
lot of what happens with individual commissions is a decision was made and somebody's always unhappy with the outcome. But that may not be a large number of people, it may just be people on the side street somewhere that lost out.
Which,
And
that's,
so now they decided, they're gonna make this a close to that, and
that's exactly right. I mean, that's why, to me, more technical, the smaller the number of people impacted, more you go towards an appointment if it's a very broad issue.
But in this section, we're talking about the pros of elections, and the pro of election is that because they're elected, they tend to be more sensitive and responsive. The banner term would be you lobby, that they're subject to being
I don't know,
lobbied.
maybe that's what we gotta say, elected officials are more subject to big lobby, because there's no proof, in fact, that they are more responsive and aware.
But that's not necessarily a progress, is it?
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
But
let's
if we're so enamored with election.
Yeah.
Let's say, There could be a lot of
The literature,
well, for those who think that, lobby is a good thing.
I think we're getting distracted here. This was a simple point. I didn't see this as a point.
Well, how about, I would be okay with adding Steve's word, election may enhance the board's commission's awareness and responsiveness.
I don't know if you can say that is true.
Okay,
What's the proof of that?
Well, that's literature that talks about that.
Okay.
But my proof
If we're gonna
is
do that, we're gonna do that all down the line, okay?
Well, yeah, because we shouldn't accept blanket statements that are.
Okay. I will make.
mine is anecdotal because I hear the minority point of view in an election. I wouldn't hear the minority point of view in a discussion at a commission because it's in the press, it's in as a elected official.
Okay, so you're saying a minority point of view comes out in letters to the editor and other sorts of things like that.
But that could be in a commission too.
The whole idea of the election process, you have debates, you have articles, you have letters to editors, you have things and points.
So that's the point. The election process enables minority points. So that's the better language then.
Yeah, and it's awareness and responsibility. That we don't know. But what we do know is that the election process provides for.
All points of
Willing to
view.
live by that standard, but we're gonna carry that standard through to everything else, and it's really gonna create a lot of, you're not gonna get to, I'm happy to do that. I really, I guess I'd like to do that because
I am fine with the election process allows all points of view to be surfaced or something.
Allows, well, no, you don't.
Allows.
Well,
publicly
More
served.
points, many points of view to be.
The responsiveness part is
Yes.
what was the word that was used in the literature that I read. If I need to produce it, I'll be happy to do it.
well, what about this, election may increase the number of points of view that are brought forward.
No, I don't.
You don't like that?
Well,
Okay.
That's probably true. I guess if you're debating stuff, there's probably more points of view. But the idea that people who are being elected somehow feel the people that elected them or might not re-elect them, they try and respond because there's a dynamic there of the electorate. And you see it all the time.
But that dynamic also applies to people who are appointed.
I'm happy to put that
Because they
in.
have to also.
I'm happy to put that in when we get
The appointed.
If you wanna put that in when we, if you wanna add something that you think is, got some legitimacy to it, we can do that. But when you look at the literature, the key benefit of elected is the accountability and the responsibility.
Yeah, but Joe, the literature is written typically from a particular perspective.
Oh, there's.
I write a book on political science and I write it from my own individual perspective and I put forward the arguments that favor that perspective. And I dispute the arguments that go in the other direction. So just saying that the literature says something, so what?
Well, to my knowledge, the point we're debating at the moment is that the text provides it, which I'm agreeing.
Let's get through, I'm just saying, let's get through the pros and cons on elected boards and then it's the converse.
So maybe, I don't know if I'll get through.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm
Wait,
going to do?
minutes.
I'm going to highlight this point 2 under pros in
I'm
yellow.
comfortable with the point 2 that you wrote. I'm not challenging it. I
Okay,
think Steve is challenging it.
No, I'm just being me, being wordsmithy, I am fine.
I would be happy to add another point,
Yes.
she would just add another point, I mean, what you wrote, I accept.
okay,
That, point 2, I don't have an issue with point 2.
Okay.
And if Steve wants to add a, or 2A or a new 3,
This is not a major,
All right, if
so
we
I have no issue
if we
with
leave
2.
it as is, I'm fine.
I'm fine,
okay, let's leave that as it is.
Okay,
I'm fine with point 3.
Steve, you have the next, edit to 3.
as election may enhance checks and balances as potential commissioners should be are less likely to be individuals close to town government in general and the first selectman or the board of selectmen in particular. So,
I'm fine with it.
Potential commissioners or board members, it should be.
Well, that's why I said members.
I would say members are elected officials.
Fine,
Okay,
same.
Or officials, potential officials, because
Okay.
they're not elected yet. Okay, so if you say, elections may enhance checks and balances as potential officials
Yes,
are less likely to be individuals you want to write, are you intending to write 2T00 or you're intending to just simply say
Close.
individuals close?
to be individuals close to town government. Less, I mean, that's a big point.
Yeah,
Let's get rid of that. Are less likely to be close, go back to Angela's language, close to the first selectman or the board of selectmen.
I'm fine with that.
okay, that's fine.
So basically,
Oh,
point 3.
Steve,
Yeah,
in practicality, there are many appointments. I don't know the people at all. I've never met them. I don't know anything about them and I have to interview them. So I think you're making a subjective, as I'm listening to your conversations, I think there's all kinds of subjective language in everything you're saying from either perspective. And because I can tell you, I've appointed many people I have never met in my life. They come to me, I interview them, they come before the board. So I would argue that just the comment that was just made is untrue.
right, what I was trying to capture there is Joe's points about cronyism and corruption without actually using those very ugly terms, which don't really apply here.
I'm happy
You
with
just
what-
need to stay very far away from any subjective language in this, whatever you're writing. And it feels like there's a lot of very subjective language that you're discussing.
Again,
Well, we can just strike 3 if,
no, I think 3 is very important because it introduces the idea of checks and balances.
well, let's just end it there. Election may enhance checks and balances, period.
Well, that's true. We can't
But-
argue about that.
But there needs to be some, description as to, where that mechanism, where that dynamic comes from, and
But it's,
I'm comfortable with what Angela wrote. I mean, I'm not.
I would tell you that all appointments, the check and balance is that it has to come before the full board. And in the case of a couple of the commissions, they have to come before our board and the elected town council. So there are no appointments that I make on my own as first selectman, none.
So now we're in the elected section. And I advocate that we keep Angela's text. That's it.
What's your text, the original text, Angela?
are you all right with that?
election may enhance checks and balances
as members are less likely to be individuals close to the first selectman or the board.
Yeah, you see, that's a very subjective statement,
Yeah,
because you don't know that that's true. Elections may enhance checks and balances, full stop.
And then,
So in the case of Board of Finance, I think you could argue that. I mean, in the past, the members of Board of Finance
Have been-
were handpicked by the first selectman of the day.
Not true.
Members
It's
of
absolutely not true. That is absolutely not true. I get those recommendations. I can tell you I didn't know Alan Bedaines. I didn't know Steve Doka. I'm giving you very specific examples. I did not know them. They were brought to me. I interviewed them. The Board of Finance chair interviewed them, and then we made a decision. So I think, again, there's significant subjective language in referring to appointments being, I have to bring them forward, but it doesn't mean that I knew them in advance or my predecessors knew them in advance. Often they come, I think Kevin brought to the commission the other day, there's a ton of positions. And so we lean very heavily on, DTC, RTC, the boards and commissions themselves for recommendations, because there are a ton of positions to be filled.
I certainly hear you, Dion, that things have changed in relation to the Board of Finance since the third selectman is no longer the chair of the Board of Finance.
Correct.
And that's like 10 years ago, so maybe this is old history.
It's very old history. Yeah.
so I still think it's a pro that a election, don't know for sure, but it can enhance checks and balances. It makes sure there's more voices.
It'll bring peace to the kingdom, I'll agree with that.
Period.
Okay, so we'll just end that sentence after checks and balances, right?
Yeah.
Right, everything else.
Okay. And just for the record, the idea isn't that we're putting here statements that each and every one of us think are true. They are statements that each member of the CRC can agree with or say that's a load of rubbish.
Okay.
Well,
Can we try to
We are presenting it as a piece of intellectual property that we've come to some level of agreement and done some research and analysis on. So it is going to be people I think by submitting it, we're asking people to accept this as a foundational element into their thought process.
I don't think we want to over exaggerate the extent to which our members are actually going to spend a lot of time reading this and memorizing it.
At that point, I would suggest this should be short, simple,
Yeah.
and to the point.
Yeah.
too long is it?
I was,
Right.
again, I go back to this idea of themes, it's very short. And I thought the main takeaway from our meeting last week was both mechanisms have pros and cons,
Right.
both have a role. It's not a question of one is better than the other. It's a question of what is the particulars, which we all seem to agree on. And that's why I feel when we put it into the New Canaan context, we're beginning to adjudicate the case, I
Right.
think prematurely and
Well,
unnecessarily, which I
Just heard your point in live with
Yeah.
Dion. So we can
would
look.
like that.
Okay.
I know that we're at 6 o'clock now. I just want to do a time check. Can people keep on going?
I'm happy with
I
it.
can hear.
I can't.
Okay.
I've got to be someplace at 6:30.
Okay, can we just get to the end of the pros for elected boards and
Yes.
commissions? I can see that somebody suggested, like Steve, wants to get rid of that.
I think 4 is certainly not, it's probably true, but let's start with the fact that what you wrote in 4 is probably true. But I don't think it can be hoisted up as a benefit of election. And I think it doesn't really add anything to the conversation to say that the powerful position of first selectman under current structure decides and the position is going to be reduced.
But
That's
first of all,
not true. But I-
it's not true because
Okay.
the first selectman is always in consultation with the other two selectmen.
Right.
Except for executive things like contracts and some other things. And just the way it's written is pejorative.
Good, then I'm happy to take it out on your best,
So,
rather than,
Okay.
I'm willing to agree with that.
But it is a fact that the first selectman has the power of setting the agenda.
Yeah.
And it is a candidate the candidate that is the choice for first selectman is what goes forward to the board of selectmen, but let's just take that
Let's
out.
take the point, I agree,
Yeah,
if
let's
we're
take
gonna
it.
use Chris's basis for it, that's fine. I recommended an additional point here, which hopefully will be easy to agree on, which is the election process allows for public vetting of candidates for membership on a commission or board. That's all, public vetting.
I don't have a problem with that.
Public vetting is good, and maybe it's for one that's up there in, as part of that,
There's no reason, there's nothing to be gained by combining it, I think it stands alone as its own point, checks and balances is a point, public vetting is a point.
yeah, I was thinking maybe with checks and balances, but it could be its own point.
So that's
It
what,
allows for public vetting of
and
candidates.
that's actually what happens when you have debates, whether it's to the editor and
Yeah,
This
that's,
was my point earlier, I think, exactly.
okay, that would be fun.
Yeah.
And where is that? Oh, there it is, number 4, so it's a new number 4.
Yeah. Okay, election, the election process allows for public vetting of candidates and membership on a board or commission or board.
now,
You're saying it works here.
um,
The elections work in Buchanan for boards and commissions.
yes, that's what I'm saying. And I think that's an important point.
Yeah, I do too, because we've heard people come in and say, absolutely, we need appointed boards because they're working, and we need elected boards because they're working. I mean, it's working. We have a good experience.
We have 3 Board of Education, Town Council, Board of Assessment Appeals. And I don't think anybody's complaining, I think they're working well.
Well, but what was the vetting for the candidates for the Board of Assessment Appeals? You know, there were 3 candidates, there were 3 seats. I don't recall any of them, whoever they were, actually putting out a statement about why they were running for office and what they would seek to achieve. I mean, there was no, it was-
They weren't, they didn't have to, they were unopposed.
yeah,
Yes.
As was the first select.
Well, as we're all
Not the last
the
time, right?
Yeah.
Excuse me?
Not the last time.
Yes, it was. The first select was unopposed.
this time.
This time, I did the
The
first.
last time, no, I know. Yeah.
But I'm fine with the
Right.
concept that elections work here.
Yeah, I think that's an important point. So
So
we had point number 5, is that okay?
I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
We need
you are.
positive.
so point number 4, actually.
No, well,
What was it, really fun?
We got rid of the,
Yes, we
Yeah.
got.
You're the old 4, but you
Old
can move
4,
forward.
but then we have new 4, which is the vetting.
yeah, that's it, number 4, not
Right.
number
Okay,
5.
I'll
Number
just stop.
5 is that the elections have resulted in effective terms and conditions. That's on the top of that page.
So
Right there.
we did not, I'm just very sensitive to Chris needing to run. We did not get to the discussion of Article 1 of the town charter. And we
I'm
have,
prepared to do that whenever you want.
well, we have a meeting scheduled next Wednesday, and I just wanted to. Other business, I have scheduled the Board of Ed at next Wednesday, 4:30 also. And with I've scheduled that with the chair of the Board of Ed.
Okay.
So we have the.
May I ask you, before we go to the future, where are we ending on this document that we stopping at the pros of elections?
Yes, we run out of time.
Okay, so we will pick up then on the cons of elections at the next meeting.
Yes,
Fine.
and for scheduling reasons, do you have a problem, just like tonight, we had Dr. Lucy here first. Have the people that are coming in to present
Let's
first,
slide on.
and then we pick up right at where we're leaving off. And maybe you can take the written comments, which you haven't had before now, and think them through between now and next Wednesday.
Well, I can certainly do that, but to the extent that we have different points of view, we have to hash it out.
Yeah.
The meeting.
Which we'll continue with the theme-based discussion, and if, assuming we can get through that next time, we'll pick up the Article 1 of the town charter. Is that okay
Well,
with that?
maybe Article 1 is almost done, isn't it, Joe?
Article 1 is going to be me feeding back to you what we agreed on.
Yeah,
It's not, There'll be a little bit here and there, but it's not gonna be much.
Yeah, we might be able to wrap that up next meeting, even if we have to,
Well, do you wanna go first?
Well, what I say is, if this is gonna be of any use, we better get it before the CRC in the not too distant future. And I also think with Article 1, Joe, that we may have to come back to that after we've had all kinds of discussions with the full CRC. There may be other groups that want to add
Sure, I think
a
so.
definition.
You give me Article 1,
okay, that's a good point.
if you wanna distribute it.
Is that has been posted?
It has not been posted.
Okay,
Why don't you post it, why don't you hand it out, and just post it for the next meeting?
Yeah, I will send you.
And if you wanna send, cause I'm gonna probably be doing this the next meeting too with the Board of Ed.
This is intended to be what I think we agreed to.
Okay.
That's
And
great.
if it,
yeah.
and it's gonna be 5% up then.
Could you send this to me electronically?
Yeah.
And then I will post this. And I will post questions for the Board of Ed. And then where
Are we posting our edits or not?
do we have to?
I don't think we have to, and I'm
This
not
is
going
personal.
to, no.
That's fine, that's fine, just that.
Yeah.
Just hang on to them in case anybody ever.
Oh, I promise.
Yeah.
I promise you. But I will send you the electronic of that.
Right.
And honestly, I really, we took out artificial intelligence, we took
Yeah.
out,
Between now and this, we
it's
can,
98%.
yeah, hopefully this will be 5 minutes, but I come back. I don't see any other way around just going through line by line like we're doing. And thank you, everybody, for being strong on your opinions, but open to others. And I think that's just essential, so.
Can I just update everybody on town clerk? Claudia's been sick. She's back in the office, I believe, this week, but she hasn't got back to me with the date. I'm gonna continue to ask her to give us a date, and I would like to encourage her strongly to actually come to before the full CRC.
The full CRC.
Yeah.
Okay. No, the folks at the Board of Ed wanted to come here, so.
Right.
So
Will we be covering ground with them other than what we covered with them?
the charter is so short on, but we needed to invite them. We just need to hear their points of view. I was gonna put it in commentary on Dr.
They are elected officials,
Yeah. We
so
need to
very
hear it.
Well, I
important.
think you have to let them have their day in court.
Yes.
It was
So
asked,
that'll be the agenda for the next one.
Yeah.
I need a motion to.
sorry, I was just editing, or just commenting, 10 years ago when I was chair of the Board of Ed, I was asked to come before the CRC. So it is definitely good practice.
Can I hear a motion to?
I move that we adjourn.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
I want to thank Jonah and Andrew for sticking it through this. You guys have been troopers to listen to the back and forth here, and we will reconvene next Wednesday, the 21st at 4:30 in conference room B is what I understand. And I will, with that, stop recording.
All right, right
Okay.
after that,
We're meeting on the 21st.
Right, everyone.
a week from today.
Yeah, a week from today, we have every Wednesday scheduled.
And the 20th is our May meeting.
The 20th is, yes, the full
And
CRC.
it's 4:30 next week for our meeting.
Yes.
I thought it was every week, we just scheduled this.
Yeah.
We all did 4:30 except for the first one.
Yeah. So.
Okay, thank you all.
All right, everyone.
I really don't think the Board of Ed will take very much.
No.
But I'm old.
Oh, yeah.
No, it's just,
This time of year,
yeah, I'm usually pretty good at not getting it. I mean, I do all the right backs and some people have to down like that, but all the blue shots and everything.
Good luck with your real estate friend.
yes, good luck.
Thank you very much. It's
process.
it's moving is a big deal.
It is.
All right, safe.
There's so much, yeah, see, there's so much to be resolved and organized, but also it's a big thing emotionally. You know, this isn't the house that you brought your kids up in.
Yeah, it really is, and it's a quirky house, it's
Yeah.
built in 18, I mean, and it's got, all kinds of different pros and cons to it, it's been difficult, it's been expensive to maintain. But it's been so flexible through so many phases of life that we've been in, and this is kind of an acknowledgement that we're beyond the phase of.
Yeah,
And all of this stuff is coming up, but we couldn't be happier with where we're going.
no,
And there's a lovely woman, I mean, her daughter is saying, Mom, you need to move close to
Yeah.
me. She's lived there and loves it, and she's been great about us going there. And, you know, it's a.
I think it's very sensible to do these things
Well,
before it's too late, you know,
That's
or,
exactly what we're at.
yeah,
And I think I told you, we're both 67.
yeah.
We're both, you know, other than finding aches and pains that used to just go away and now they don't. I mean, we're in good health. And now's the time to do it. So. Let me turn this off entirely.